What if you could live on a tropical island in China, surrounded by palm trees, beaches, modern cities, high-speed trains, excellent food, and some of the fastest-growing infrastructure in the country? Welcome to Hainan, China. Often called China's tropical island paradise, Hainan is very different from the image many people have of mainland China. You have beach resorts in Sanya, the rapidly developing city of Haikou, tropical countryside, mountains, fishing villages, luxury hotels, shopping districts, and a growing international community. But here's the big question. How much does it actually cost to live in Hainan in 2026? How expensive is housing? What will you spend on food? Can you get around without a car? How good and affordable is healthcare? What about schools for families? And perhaps most importantly, is Hainan actually safe for foreigners, retirees, digital nomads, and long-term residents? In this video, we're breaking down the 2026 cost of living in Hainan, including housing, food, transportation, healthcare, education, utilities, entertainment, lifestyle, and safety. And stay until the end, because I'll give you realistic monthly budgets for a single person, a couple, and a family. Let's get started. Hainan is China's southernmost province and its largest tropical island. The two cities most relevant to international residents are Haikou and Sanya. Haikou is the provincial capital and the more practical city for everyday living. It's more urban, more business-oriented, and generally more affordable. Sanya, on the other hand, is China's famous tropical resort destination. Think beaches, luxury hotels, international tourism, golf, nightlife, restaurants, and high-end residential developments. And that distinction matters because Sanya can be significantly more expensive than Haikou, especially around popular beach and resort districts. Hainan is also becoming increasingly important economically because of the Hainan Free Trade Port. The province is continuing to develop international tourism, trade, aviation, healthcare, education, and business infrastructure. For eligible foreign travelers, Hainan also has unusually attractive entry policies. As of 2026, citizens of 59 designated countries can enter Hainan visa-free for up to 30 days for qualifying purposes, including tourism and business, while other national visa-free policies have expanded the number of countries able to visit without a visa. However, remember, visa-free tourism is not the same thing as permission to work or permanently live in China. Housing will probably be your largest monthly expense, and this is where choosing the right city can make a major difference. According to current 2026 cost of living data, a one-bedroom apartment in Haikou averages around 2,000 RMB per month outside the city center and approximately 2,500 RMB in the city center. That's roughly 280 to 350 US dollars, depending on the exchange rate. A three-bedroom apartment averages approximately 2,450 RMB outside the center and around 3,867 RMB in the city center. That is remarkably affordable compared with major international cities. But Sanya is a different story. Current data put a one-bedroom apartment around 2,500 RMB outside the center and approximately 4,000 RMB in the city center. A three-bedroom apartment can average approximately 5,000 RMB outside the center and around 8,000 RMB in the city center. And beachfront or luxury developments can cost considerably more. So if you're looking for maximum affordability, Haikou generally makes more financial sense than central Sanya. For someone willing to live farther from the tourist zones, Hainan can become even more affordable. But there's an important warning. Rental prices can vary enormously based on location, building age, furnishings, distance from the beach, access to public transportation, season, and whether you're renting directly or through an agent. A modern apartment in a popular Sanya resort district is obviously going to cost much more than an older apartment in a residential neighborhood. What about buying? In Haikou, current data place apartment purchase price is around 21,500 RMB per square meter in the city center and approximately 14,300 RMB per square meter outside the center. But foreigners should not assume that buying property in China works the same way as buying a home in the United States or Europe. Property ownership, land use rights, eligibility, financing, and restrictions are governed by Chinese law and can depend on residency and other circumstances. So if you're considering purchasing rather than renting, get professional China-specific legal and financial advice before putting down a deposit. For most foreigners testing Hainan for the first time, renting is the safer way to start. Now let's talk about food. This is where Hainan can become extremely attractive. If you eat like a local, you can keep your food budget surprisingly low. In Haikou, current price data show an inexpensive restaurant meal at approximately 30 RMB. A meal for two at a mid-range restaurant is around 100 RMB, excluding drinks. A cappuccino is approximately 1650 RMB. And a basic bottle of water can cost only a few yuan. Grocery prices can also be reasonable. For example, current Haikou averages include approximately rice, 450 RMB per kilogram, eggs, about 8.93 RMB for 12 chicken fillets, about 26 RMB per kilogram, bananas, around 6 RMB per kilogram, tomatoes, around 6 RMB per kilogram, potatoes, around 5.67 RMB per kilogram. And then there's seafood. Because Hainan is an island, fresh seafood is a major part of the local food culture. You can find fish, shrimp, crab, shellfish, and other seafood at markets and restaurants. But here's the catch. Imported food can become expensive. If you want American, European, Australian, or other imported brands, your grocery bill can rise quickly. The same is true for Western restaurants, coffee shops, premium supermarkets, and international dining. So your food budget depends heavily on your lifestyle. A person eating mostly Chinese and Hainanese food might spend roughly 1,200 to 2,000 RMB per month. A couple could reasonably budget 2,500 to 4,000 RMB, and a family eating frequently at Western restaurants could spend significantly more. If you're moving here, you'll want to try the local cuisine. One of the most famous dishes is Hainanese wenchang chicken. Then there's Hainanese coconut rice, seafood, noodles, hot pot, fresh tropical fruit, and plenty of dishes influenced by the island's diverse communities. And because Hainan is tropical, you'll also find plenty of coconut, mango, pineapple, watermelon, papaya, and other tropical produce. For food lovers, this is one of the strongest arguments for living here. Transportation is another area where Hainan can be affordable. In Haikou, current data put a local public transport ticket at approximately 6 RMB with a monthly public transport pass around 360 RMB. Taxi fares start around 15 RMB, with approximately 3 RMB per kilometer after that in the cited dataset. Sanya is also well connected by buses. The city's tourism authority currently lists 132 bus routes, with fares starting around 2 RMB and most trips costing between 2 and 12 RMB. You also have taxis and ride-hailing services. And for longer distance travel, Hainan has an extensive high-speed rail network. For example, the high-speed train between Haikou and Sanya can take roughly 1 hour 15 minutes to 3 hours, depending on the service and route. Second-class tickets on the shorter East Ring Line are approximately 108 to 158 RMB. That means you don't necessarily need to own a car. For many residents, a combination of walking, buses, ride-hailing, taxis, electric scooters, and high-speed trains can cover most daily transportation needs. Utilities are another relatively manageable expense. Current Haikou data estimate basic utilities for an approximately 85 square meter apartment at around 240 RMB per month. That includes electricity, cooling, water, garbage, and related basic utilities. A mobile plan with calls and 10 GB or more of data is listed around 90 RMB per month. Broadband internet is approximately 90 RMB per month. However, electricity usage can increase significantly during the hot months because air conditioning becomes a necessity for many people. This is something retirees and long-term residents should budget for. Now let's talk about healthcare. This is one of the most important factors for anyone considering long-term life in Hainan. Hainan has major public hospitals, private facilities, and an expanding network of international medical services. The provincial government reported that 31 medical institutions across 18 cities and counties had established dedicated international outpatient departments to better serve foreigners. These include major facilities such as Hainan General Hospital, the second affiliated hospital of Hainan Medical University, Haikou People's Hospital, and Sanya People's Hospital. Hainan is also developing medical tourism, particularly around Sanya. Healthcare costs in China can be substantially lower than equivalent private healthcare in countries such as the United States, although the experience varies greatly depending on the hospital, treatment, insurance, and whether you use public or private services. For everyday problems, pharmacies and clinics can be inexpensive. For serious medical issues, however, you should have comprehensive international health insurance. And if you don't speak Mandarin, access to English-speaking doctors and staff can vary. That makes international clinics particularly valuable. For families, education is probably the biggest factor that can change the cost of living equation. Public education is much less expensive than international education. Haikou's 2026 education fee information confirms that compulsory public education provides tuition-free enrollment, while private schools have different fee structures. But international schools can become extremely expensive. For example, Harrow International School Haikou's 2026-27 tuition ranges from approximately 108,000 RMB per term for the early years up to 145,000 RMB per term for year 13. That's a completely different cost category from local schooling. There are also less expensive international and bilingual options. For example, current 2026 information for Sanya's Haya Foreign Language School lists bilingual and integrated programs with tuition ranging from tens of thousands of RMB per semester, depending on the grade and curriculum. So if you're moving to Hainan with children, don't simply ask, "How much does school cost?" Ask, "Which curriculum do I want? Chinese national curriculum, bilingual, British, Cambridge, international, IB style?" The answer can change your annual budget by tens of thousands of dollars. Now for one of the biggest questions, is Hainan safe? Overall, Hainan has a reputation as a relatively orderly and safe destination. The Hainan provincial government reported that in 2025, criminal cases and homicides decreased by 27.3% and 18.9% respectively, while describing public security as reaching its best level in its historical reporting. But no destination is completely risk-free. One of the bigger practical concerns in Hainan isn't necessarily street crime. It's the weather. Hainan is tropical and can experience typhoons, heavy rainfall, flooding, strong winds, and extreme heat. The provincial government reported dealing with numerous tropical cyclones and heavy rainfall events in 2025. So if you're renting near the coast, pay attention to flood risk, building quality, storm preparation, insurance, and evacuation procedures. And just like anywhere else, watch out for scams, tourist overcharging, traffic accidents, and online fraud. What do you get for your money? A lot. Hainan offers a lifestyle that combines tropical beaches, mountains, hiking, water sports, golf, restaurants, shopping malls, night markets, cafes, resorts, nightlife, and wellness tourism. Sanya is especially attractive if your dream lifestyle involves waking up near the ocean. Haikou is better suited to someone who wants a more normal city environment while still having access to tropical weather and beaches. And if you get bored with one city, Hainan's high-speed rail makes it relatively easy to explore other parts of the island. So let's put everything together. For a single person living modestly in Haikou, a reasonable target could be approximately housing, 2,000–3,000 RMB. Food, 1,200–2,000 RMB. Transportation, 300–600 RMB. Utilities and internet, 350–600 RMB. Entertainment and miscellaneous, 500–1,000 RMB. That puts a realistic basic lifestyle around 4,350 to 7,200 RMB per month. If you're looking for a more comfortable lifestyle with better housing, frequent restaurants, entertainment, and more Western products, you might want 7,000 to 10,000 plus RMB per month. For a couple, a comfortable lifestyle might fall around 8,000 to 14,000 RMB per month, depending heavily on rent and dining. For a family with children, the biggest variable is education. A family could spend 12,000 to 20,000 plus RMB per month before expensive international school tuition. And if you choose a premium international school, your education bill can completely change the equation. If you're deciding between the two, Haikou is generally better for lower housing costs, business, long-term living, local services, government and commercial infrastructure, and a more practical everyday lifestyle. Sanya is better for beaches, tourism, resorts, international visitors, luxury living, outdoor activities, and a more vacation-oriented lifestyle. But you will generally pay a premium for the Sanya lifestyle. So who should consider Hainan? First, retirees. If you can legally establish long-term residence and have reliable income, Hainan's tropical climate, healthcare infrastructure, food, and relatively affordable living costs can be attractive. Second, remote workers and entrepreneurs. Hainan's free trade port development creates opportunities, although working legally in China requires the correct immigration and employment authorization. Third, families. But families need to investigate schools before moving. And fourth, people who simply want a tropical lifestyle. If you want beaches without giving up the infrastructure of a major Chinese province, Hainan is an unusual combination. Let's quickly break down the biggest advantages. Pros: affordable local food, relatively affordable housing in Haikou, excellent transportation infrastructure, high-speed rail across the island, modern hospitals, growing international medical services, tropical climate, beaches and outdoor activities, strong tourism infrastructure, and expanding international business opportunities. But there are also disadvantages. Cons: Sanya can become expensive. International schools are costly. Imported Western products can be expensive. Mandarin is extremely useful for everyday life. Internet access and digital services operate differently from many Western countries. The tropical climate can be extremely hot and humid, and typhoons and heavy rainfall are genuine considerations. So, is Hainan expensive? The answer is, it depends on how you live. If you live like a local, choose Haikou, rent a reasonably priced apartment, eat local food, use public transportation, and avoid expensive international schooling and luxury entertainment. Hainan can be surprisingly affordable. But if you live in central Sanya, rent a luxury apartment, eat Western food, shop for imported products, drive everywhere, and send your children to a premium international school, your monthly expenses can rise dramatically. For a single person or couple looking for a tropical Asian lifestyle, Haikou may offer one of the better cost-to-lifestyle ratios in Hainan. For someone prioritizing beaches and resort living, Sanya may be worth the extra expense. And with Hainan continuing its development as a free trade port and international tourism destination, this island could become increasingly important for foreigners looking for an alternative lifestyle in Asia. So the real question isn't simply, is Hainan cheap? It's, can Hainan give you the lifestyle you want at a price you can afford? And for many people, the answer could be yes. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Off-Map Travel for more detailed guides on the world's most interesting destinations, including cost of living, housing, food, healthcare, transportation, schools, safety, and lifestyle. And tell me in the comments, would you live in Hainan, Haikou, or Sanya? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next journey off map.